World Environment Day, and our cities are growing. Issues of sustainability crop up everywhere, every aspect of the business, in every aspect of life, in all our daily choices. And think who better as a person to talk to than Dr. Sunita Purushottam, who is the head of sustainability at Mahindra Lifespaces and who's done her PhD in environmental sciences from IIT Bombay. But I think more, I would say that I would much rather have Sunita talk much more about this on um, from her own side. And I think the main thing that we'd like to cover today is the different aspects of sustainability, Sunita, and how it impacts all our life choices, how it impacts business, how it impacts personal choices, and what can we as a community do, as a society, as a corporate world, what can we do to ensure that the world is sustainable? But let's start out with, why don't you tell us first about yourself and how you found your calling in sustainability?
Thank you, Geeta. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and I wish we could do it in person, and we'll reserve that for another day. Um, so, a little bit about myself. I have over 25 years of experience, and uh, environment or studying environment was not on my list actually, because I was in love with physics and since school days, and I ended up doing my master's in physics. And it is after I did my master's in physics, I topped my course, and I wanted to do something uh, in physics, and I ended up getting my PhD selection in Physical Research Laboratory in Ahmedabad. It's one of the premier institute to study physics, theoretical physics. But somehow I felt that maybe if I do theoretical physics, I will get stuck in the realm of theory. And I had a little bit of a twinge in me saying that maybe I should do something applied. I did study chaos in during my internship at PRL, and chaos is about entropy, and entropy is a physical parameter in thermodynamics, and entropy is a one-way arrow of time, and that's what we are heading towards. And it is ironic that the sustainability or the world uh, movement towards increased entropy is leading us to what we see all around us. So, so it's deep, it's philosophical, and I have always felt that physics brings you closer to God. But I ended up doing environmental sciences because I came back home from Ahmedabad, and I actually said I won't join here. I came back home and I joined Environmental Research Institute, NERI, the National Environmental Research Institute, in their air pollution control division for instrumentation and studying applied atmospheric sciences. And that's where I began my foray into environment. I didn't have a formal background of environment, but always was interested in environment. So that was really a very a shift, I would say. And from there I went on to do my PhD from IIT Bombay. I had framed my topic, but I didn't have a guide, and I got the CSIR fellowship from Delhi, the Senior Research Fellowship, and I was searching for a guide, and then I stumbled across a lady who had exactly the same topic as mine, same background as mine. She was a physicist with environmental science background and doing research in the exact topic, Professor Patil. And that's how I ended up doing my PhD in environmental science and engineering. But I had to do the entire MTech course to get my grounding and that formal education in environmental sciences. And even then, when that shift happened, I was very much into theoretical modeling and showing the impact of air pollution. And believe me, the world was quite different then. 1995, 97, 98, 2000, the amount of plastics that you see has humongously grown. The amount of consumption that you see humongously grown. The air, the water pollution, and the shifts in the air and water pollution are tremendous. If you try and quantify the amount of destruction or the carbon emissions that we have done, or the biodiversity loss that we have done from that time to now, the passion, of course, is, what do you call? Mm, it's strengthened further with every day of destruction that we do. We are against a tide, Geeta. I'll pause here.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, it's this is something, it's been plaguing me. Like, in your case, it's formed part of your official and your corporate, and even before the corporate, your professional journey. Let's put it this way. Um, in my case, I think even when I was working with the Tatas, way back in 2000, I think was the first time when they came up with the concept of green rating. And I remember working on that project for Tata Motors. That was still at a very, very nascent stage. Not so. I think in some ways that did trigger an interest in me. And many years later, over in my personal life, when I would take my children for nature walks, and of course, as a citizen, when we see so much, as you said, so much garbage around, when we look at other countries, developed countries, we go to Singapore, you don't see an iota of product or garbage on the road, but here you see. That's of course should I say, a behavioral issue, let's say, amongst us. But if you look behind, even when we clean up the fronts, it is the back end which is really shocking when you delve in a little deeper. For example, when with my son, we had done a project on hydrodynamics, and we were looking at what is plaguing the waters. And we did a river walk, and we did a visit to a sewage treatment plant, and we found some of the, what should I say, some of the underlying and the really dark secrets. Like, we are producing so much of gray water. How much of that gray water? It's almost only about 30% of that water is getting processed in the sewage treatment plants. That water is going into the rivers. So I'm not here getting here into what is the capacity building and probably the duration for that. But when we ask what is comprising, what are the worst things in the gray water, which if it is let out unprocessed into the streams, what happens? And the biggest culprits were the cleansers that we were using in our homes, and the sulfates and nitrates, the parabens, etc., and those which are going in and destroying the aqua life, and especially the acid, bleach. And those were things which were, when you start thinking, then therefore, I mean, what is going into our choice? We compared soaps, a soap versus a hand wash, and the number of chemicals that you use in just this small product increase multifold. And so when it triggered me into starting a skincare range, and not skincare primarily from the point of view of wellness, it came that, okay, I should not look at a moisturizer, because between a moisturizer and an oil, suddenly there is so many more chemicals that go in. And this is where an awareness level needs to be brought in, I think. And I was fortunate, I would say, through my child's project, that I got to see behind the scenes, right? And so we tried to build it into this. But this talk is much more about listening to you. And so, how do you see, from your perspective, what are the key challenges that we have on living sustainably, especially in cities, and living spaces and workspaces? That's right.
I think the biggest challenge is that products of various types, whether it is care, self care, food products, clothing, homeware, all of them, they are accessible to an individual at a click of a button, or just a drive away to the latest mall, or it is there in your kirana store, and these are cheap products. These you really have to educate a person or a human being to say that and to say that, okay, this is not right for you, okay, for you, and then for the planet, because then it doesn't work. Because if you say it is not right for the planet, it doesn't register, because they are not dealing with the waste, they are not dealing with the chemicals, they are not dealing with uh, and the linkage between the products and health is, there is a lead time to it. So it's sorry, there is a lag, not lead, lag.
Absolutely.
So there is a lag to it, and that will not come up now. Okay, so the other question that people are going to ask you is, so many people are using it and it is not harming them, and therefore why should I stop? Okay, for example, I am appalled at the amount of plastics that come into a home, or the amount of skincare, hair care products that people end up buying. I was recently having a conversation with a colleague. She said that I appreciated her on her crochet top, and she said that, I wear my dresses only once, so you can very well have it from me. Okay, at least she said I'm not throwing it. Okay, and these are products which are not something that you would want to, it just looks good, but it has a polyester or a oil background to it. uh, so this discerning eye is there with very few people, and it is being lost increasingly. It used to be there with our grandmothers and our mothers, कि क्या खाना चाहिए, क्या पहनना चाहिए, क्या लगाना चाहिए, and all of that. Okay, and क्या लेना चाहिए घर के लिए. Okay, so we were actually coached by our parents and mothers and grandmothers. Maybe you should buy gold, maybe you should, we have a particular variety of gold which we eat in winters, which is the
Merlin
I
gold
forget the
in
name.
Bengalis. Yeah.
Patali gold. Yeah, patali
Patali
gold.
gold.
So and we use that for our sweets that we make during winter. And if there are products that have to be used, we used to use Rita, Chikakai, and all of that. It is cumbersome, and skincare was barely anything actually. In terms of, my grandmother used to do a very simple one: lemon, glycerine, and a little bit of some cream, a little bit. So it was a kind of a slurry, and we used to go and use her bottle for applying, all over. And maybe oil, a lot of oil was being used, coconut oil. My mother-in-law used a lot of till oil, because till oil is
Sesame
what
oil.
they use, and sesame oil, and she used haldi on her face every day. Okay, she used haldi, like her face was yellow, and yellow and cream. So, but it was amazing because that was her routine, and she would glow. And she told me that, you should use kajal, and you wash your face with haldi and use a lot of coconut oil, and that's your evening, that should be your evening. Yeah. And I followed that for the hair and for the eyes, but haldi I didn't put on my face on a daily basis. But I was glad I found you, and I can use haldi without having a yellow glow. So in a way, I have incorporated that. But that's me. But the challenge is that it is very difficult to turn the tide, Geeta, and especially for businesses like yours, or businesses like my sister's sustainable fashion business. It is very difficult to even sustain the business, because the number of people that you will be able to reach and grow organically without supermarketing that all the big brands have, is going to be disproportional. So it is, so sustenance then becomes difficult, and we are against a tide of young people who are growing up eating junk, wearing junk, and applying junk, and using junk all the time. And it is not just them, it is also the old people who have imbibed it and said that, I can access it, I have the money, and therefore I will buy junk and throw junk. Okay, in the sense that even if you buy something with a lot of money, you don't think twice throwing it or changing it. So it is that struggle that we have in every home today. And there are very few people, sometimes both the partners will be thinking along the same lines. Kharido pheko, be a shoddy
No, it's
tourists.
yeah, you're right. It's a society which has grown out from the dark ages in that sense. It was a developing nation. People have come into money only recently. Everybody has aspirations through movies, through social media now. But even when we were growing up, you saw this in movies, you saw a different lifestyle. And now when you couldn't afford it, you definitely would like that. And that point in time, you don't think about sustainability. You think if they could do it, why can't we? And
Yeah,
so it's
yeah,
only when
yeah,
you start.
absolutely.
And the second point when you talked about, the linkage between or the lag between the ill effects of or health effects of products that we use and actually it happening, it's so huge. Like, for example, parabens, do you know when it was discovered? I mean, you're probably from the industry, so you would know. It was discovered way back in 1930s. Whereas when have we as a society started becoming even know the word parabens, let alone look for products which have parabens in them. And even in that, we don't really care about what it's doing to the environment, but at least from the problems that it is doing to us, which is hormonal disruptions, even linked to breast cancer, uterine cancer, allergies, all these are problems in something as basic as parabens, which is the ubiquitous preservative in a product. So when we were looking at, and in fact, I realized that, whenever you try to stand like an environmental protector, everybody is just saying, what's in it for me? वातावरण का तो बाद में देखेंगे. Mother Earth का तो बाद में देखेंगे. First, what's it doing to me? And we started looking into all the problems, like for example, the allergies that my daughter had with skincare. And when we started researching, what is the problem? In something as basic as a moisturizer, you'd be shocked that in a bottle of moisturizer, there's only very little oil because oil is what lands up doing the moisturizing. There is at least 60 to 80% of water because everybody says oil is chip, and you want to dilute it and you make it less, you make it smoother flowing, you make it, nice and soft. And then the balance is at least 20% of chemicals and chemicals for emulsification, for preservation, for that nice fragrance, for the nice color that you're putting in. And what are those chemicals doing? Those chemicals are going and leaching into your skin and getting absorbed and causing your own health problems later, which you'll discover maybe 10, 15, 20, or 30 years down the line. If you have a sensitive skin, then there's no problem at all. Because the moment you have an allergic reaction, you just say, okay, fine, I'm not going to use this product at all. But if you did not have a very sensitive skin and you could absorb everything, then you have actually a bigger problem. Because then you are becoming the storehouse of all these chemicals. And on top of that, then we come to the environmental aspect, which is the chemicals which are going into making chemicals, the chemicals which are going while you're going into your body and the reactions that your body has, and therefore you need to counter them subsequently with other rectifications. Then there's chemicals which are going into the soil after you're washing off, right? And in all of that, in that simple moisturizer, so one part is the chemical, the second part is so much of water. So what is that water doing? It's becoming like a filler. So you're using that much more plastic for a bottle of moisturizer, which if you were to use just oil, you're actually replacing 6 bottles of moisturizer. So you're addressing chemical pollution and you're addressing solid waste management both in one go. Apart from, this is from an environmental perspective, but the biggest sustainability that we all need to look at is actually sustainability for ourselves. Because, and that is what people will look at. What is the health problem that we have as we grow? But even that, because that lag is so much, people want instant benefits. I want to look great now. Why should I bother about बाद में तो मरना ही है. क्या फर्क पड़ता है अगर कैंसर हो गया, क्या फर्क पड़ता है about, I mean, after all, cancer warnings had not stopped people from smoking, right? So let alone this. So in the beauty industry especially, people want a feel good now. And I think you hit the third point, which is the haldi thing. So, the skincare needs of haldi and oil, which were the ubiquitous things in India, whether it was part of the haldi uptan routine, whether it was part of, the haldi lep which your mother-in-law was using, or whether it was part of the oiling which your grandmother was using. We've basically tried to bring that into the products so that people are getting that same benefit without using a single chemical. I mean, there's no compromise. We've tried to work on it in a no compromise manner. Try to make oils which are non sticky and non greasy. Try to have oils which are oil balancing so that you don't feel greasy at the end of it. And basically try to make sure that that haldi benefit you get is without the yellow stain. So that you and me, while we are having this meeting, you can actually have that benefit.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, notwithstanding. So, but you're right. The challenge is how do you get people to accept sustainable practices through the benefits it gives them? And I think the only benefit that I can try and, apart from fear-based thing, is get the beauty of the turmeric and in exactly 30 seconds, so that working professionals don't have a problem. But yeah, I
True.
think let's move over back to you,
Yeah.
and see what is it that you are observing in your practice. How do you envision that we can bring about sustain? Now, these are the problems that people are not willing to do. But how do you get people um, to take on, or to spearhead in their own personal lives and also in wider circles, lead sustainability? How do we get them to live sustainability? How do we get them to help other people make sustainable choices? And especially working professionals.
I think we should talk a lot about it. Okay, we should not stop talking about how to live sustainably. Okay, Um calling out what is good for you and what is good for the planet, and it should become a common conversation. Uh, and it's possible to influence and increase your sphere of influence. And what is very heartening for me at work is when people from sites come and tell me that, madam, because you said so, I have started looking at sustainability in my life and my home. And whenever we look at waste, we say, okay, what would have madam said for this? And therefore, what kind of decisions do I make, or my what kind of food should my children eat, what kind of lights I should get at home, what kind of aerators we should be using, and things like that. So people have started thinking, uh, and it's because I engage and talk to people, and it's very heartening when people come and say, when my colleagues come and tell me that, madam, we did this because you spoke about this once, and this is how it can be done. We do sessions on composting, we do sessions on waste segregation, we do walkthroughs of sites, and we tell them what's happening with the air and what you should be doing, how the construction sector contributes to air pollution, what happens to wastewater, and so on. So people have started imbibing it. They come to us saying that, I did this, can you feature me in some conversation, or even take a picture with me and say, okay, Sunita will perhaps put it on LinkedIn. So I have a little bit of a fan following, and that's heartening for me.
I know, I keep following
I
your
mean, if
posts
I
and
were
I
to
enjoy them totally. In fact, I think even the professor you spoke about, I think you had
put
posted
it
about
in
her.
a modest way, I feel
No,
yes, I
I
had.
follow
I
your wonderful ideas.
spoke.
I follow your ideas on LinkedIn. and get inspired
So
by them
it
on a regular
appears to
basis?
be a battle. True, it appears to be a battle, but I mean, it appears to be as if you're working against a tide. But I work in my sphere of influence and see where it takes me.
So, are there some tips that you have for, let's say, especially women, working women, homemakers? How can we live much more sustainably? And and as a working woman, what is your own self-care and sustainability regime, especially from a self-care point of view?
So I'll take the self care piece first. So I use very basic things. So Parama Naturals oil is one of the things that I carry. I also do hair oils, but I use the Parama Natural hair oil also. So I like to oil my hair. Uh, and then use the Shikakai Rita mix or buy a herbal shampoo, uh, which lasts me for a long time. I typically use soaps, handmade soaps. Friends of mine, I buy from them, and they last a long time. So variety of soaps, which are fragrance free soaps. So I use that. So my uh, my only thing that I use, which I buy from outside, and I try to get it from a good brand, is kajal, uh, or I go with brands that have kapoor based kajal. So kajal is something that I apply. Uh, and yes, lipsticks. I like lipsticks, but I try to buy them from brands which are good brands. I even stumbled across one which is a ghee based lipstick, so which was an interesting find. Yeah, so these are some of the very simple things, but the oil thing is something which is regular. I use it for my face. I use coconut oil or til oil on my body, uh, and I use that before taking a shower, with very minimal soap use also, so it avoids itching and all of that. So I'm a very oil person, so I really like using the it's couple of pumps, and within, you're right, actually 30 seconds I'm done, and then there's my bindi and kajal and I'm out ready to go. So that's my regime. And the other question that you asked is, what would be your advice to people trying to live sustainably? I think there are a few things that can be done immediately. Find out what you buy and where you buy from. That's important. So the food, and especially your entire grocery, if you can switch to a organic vendor, um, that would really change your health. That's important. If you can't change the whole grocery list, change oil to kachi ghani, change your rice to organic, and change your atta to organic, and switch to salt, which is mineral salt. These are the basic things that you should do, and remove white sugar from your diet completely, and you can do good or other stuff. These are the things that I started with, but I have mostly moved all my grocery to organic produce. And for vegetables, it's a vendor from where I can get fresh vegetables. I try and get organic, but often it is not possible. But you can remove the pesticides very easily by washing, and baking soda. And my cleaning regime is very interesting, which everybody hates. I use vinegar, soap, and water, very light soap, and it smells, but I don't have cockroaches in my kitchen. Rats are one thing, it comes up through the pipes, but getting rid of them is really sealing the windows. Pesticide use avoidance. Cleaning regime, I don't buy from outside at all, anything. And I use bioenzyme for toilets. And it was surprising when I went to a store and went to I think it was a Jaguar store, and I was talking to the guy, and I told him that the shine of the toilet goes away. He said, "You shouldn't be using the bleach." I was like, "Why don't you tell the people that you shouldn't be using the bleach?" Oh God, because it really ruins the chrome things, and it really takes the shine away. Just try cleaning your toilet with a bioenzyme or a lemon mix, even, which you have let it sit for some time with a little bit of good. That's your bioenzyme. Your toilet will shine like anything. So it's amazing. But I do these crazy stuff. Try and compost. The coffee grinds, tea, and peels. Um, in spite of all my travel tending to the plants, and I'm very careful about where I buy my clothing from. And mostly I love Indian handloom and textiles. uh, I try and go for cotton or silk, uh, and I do it as a part of my travel, wherever, whenever. It's not from a mall or anything, so you'll hardly find the things I wear are very basic, and they may have not been bought at a mall. It would be through some craft related stuff, or I borrow from my sisters, or buy from my sister.
Yeah, yeah, you're
So
lucky
that's
to
the
have an in-house
yeah.
designer.
Yeah. So yeah, so these are some of the things I follow. I do segregate my waste. I'm a little paranoid about that, and we get into a lot of tips that how many bottles do I have to save up before I get give call a recycler home. I have this fantastic recycler friend who comes to the society to pick up things, um, so that I ensure that it's not about the money that you get from recycling, it's ensuring that it doesn't go to the landfill. It's just ensuring that that person gets value out of it and it gets enters into the recycling stream. If you give it to housekeeping staff, you're not sure what are they going to do with it. So yeah, so these are some of the things that I try to do to lead a sustainable life. And of course, health is important, so try and stay resilient. I hate taking medicines. I do not take allopathic medicines at all unless forced by my husband. Uh, so especially if I'm sick, I have to be very careful that I'm strong enough to say I'm strong enough, but yeah, weak enough to be pampered. So I don't like taking medicines at all. So these are some of the things I do to stay healthy. I try and get exercise done, eat uh, healthy, cook healthy, and yeah, healthy skincare, hair care, and all of that. So I do a lot of things with my hair. Oiling is one of them, but there are various things like aloe vera, neem, everything onto my hair. Everything and anything which is good for the hair will
Yeah.
go on to my.
So happy
Yeah.
to say that the Parama Naturals hair oil has actually all the herbs that are
Um,
essential for healthy growing hair, whether it is to prevent hair problems like hair fall, premature growing, itchy scalp, etc., or just nourished healthy hair growth like Brahmi, Amla, Bringraj, Neem, hibiscus, curry leaf, methi seeds. It's like marrying Ayurvedic recipes with grandmother's nuskas, with modern scientific methods of extraction, so that you could we could get a hair oil which can actually be left in as a leave-on serum 24 by 7, even after washing the hair, so that it becomes like a conditioning as well as nourishing serum, which
sure.
is and yeah, so because right from childhood when you're growing up, what you need is a healthy hair. Why wait till a problem comes up? But and I loved your idea about buying artisanal and local products, because, you know, in fact, we have this debate at our house too. Should we embrace minimalism? Should we, because immediately my kids pounce on me and say, but you have so many saris or so many dupattas and so many clothes. I said, no, I'm supporting the artisans in this country, because as a country, we are very, very um, artisanal, or
Craft
oriented,
based.
artisanal, craft
Art is
based
correct.
society.
Craft based. Yes, we are a
Craft based
craft based
society,
society.
yes. And
Yes.
the moment you decide to go minimalist there, what happens to so many livelihoods? Okay, you don't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
lose a culture of a country and just make them as workers in a factory, right? There is
Yeah,
such a, you move a few kilometers, not even, maybe not just about 50 kilometers, and you come across a new art form. You come across a new way of weaving. You come across a new way of embroidery. You definitely come across different tastes. And that has been documented a lot better. But if you see a crafts map and you see, when we'd gone to Europe and you see that for one clog making factory, there was a huge, bus filled with people, and let's go and see how that is done. And here, हमारी तो चप्पलें बनती हैं, कोल्हापुरी चप्पल्स और जूतीज और so many things which you've just taken for granted, and you take, different ways of weaving just in Maharashtra alone. If you see the Narayan Peti, the Paitanis, the Kolhapuri chadar, the Sholapuri chadar, there are just huge varieties here. So
absolutely.
that's
So,
something we'd like to sustain. And in fact, sustainability is the moment we look at sustainability as a whole or 360 degrees, it is sustainability for the self, sustainability for society, and sustainability for the environment. And that is what we try to do. So even in our small ways, we try to see how we can promote local artisans. If you're doing Diwali, let's say gift hampers, we try to see, can we get some local kumbhars to make Diwali diyas and give us, or women who are micro entrepreneurs who are doing upcycling or who are doing block printing, can we get them to make little potlis for us? Or people who are even making lamps and lanterns. So this is something which you have to keep working on. That is what will become sustainable for society also, as sustainable livelihood. And the challenge is, how do you manage this when you're traveling? When you're traveling yourself, in terms of your own self-care routine, and how does your household manage it when you are traveling? And I think some of the
yeah.
insights that you shared were quite interesting. So as long as you kind of make little things that people can dovetail into those same 2 minutes, something that's not too elaborate, and you put, let's say, your bio enzyme in a bottle. You say, okay, fine, you don't use this, just use this. So replace an existing habit.
I
Also,
have a point on that. Yeah, for my household, I volunteer to do all the grocery and vegetable shopping before anybody hits the button. You know what I'm talking about. I said, no, wait, I will get it. So I volunteer for that, and volunteer. I ensure it is there, because if I don't do it, then I know it will come from a source which I don't trust and I don't like. And there are times that it happens, and uh, but basic grocery I try and get, like the main stuff. One or two items which are totally off and people want to eat it, then, I mean, I don't have so much control. Okay, but
no,
basic
you're right.
stuff
I
I
think, no, you're right. That is what. So we try to follow at least the 80-20 rule, like the staples in dal, chawal, atta. Those are where your fruits, vegetables, what
fruits,
your
vegetables, yes,
80,
oils.
90% of the oils, all this
Yeah,
consumption, which is the most
yeah,
important. The
yes,
one-off ketchup or the one-off condiment is fine if it's not there, right? If it's not in the
absolutely.
organic thing. And I think that's what we are trying to focus on, even as far as the entire range that we make. The whole idea was that we have a range of staples, which your one is using 365 days, one is using on the large parts of our body, what one is using, like right from the babies to the old people in the home, like everybody in the home is using what you're using 365 days of the year, or 24 by 7. Those leave-in products are the ones which are like your staples. So those are where we are also focusing on making sure that they're organically grown. They're grown using no pesticides. We work directly with farmer producer organizations and get our supplies directly from there. We make sure that those are the ones which have zero chemicals. It doesn't really matter if that one-off lipstick has some chemicals or not. But what you're applying on your body, that is the one which is the biggest, you know, large parts of your skin, which is soaking it in.
Absorb it.
So,
Yeah.
yes, we strongly believe that the skin eats too. So, what philosophy you're applying for the food intake, we are applying even to the skin, because unlike most common notion, we think, okay, the skin is protecting us, it's keeping out everything. Actually, the skin is a semi-permeable membrane. It's absorbing everything, whether it's the environmental pollution or whether it is whatever you're applying on it, it's soaking it in. And
Yeah.
so we are kind of on a similar wavelength, just in different domains.
Absolutely. So it was a pleasure, Geeta, talking to you and um, sharing my thoughts on what
And
works and how we can get better. We are all work in
we
progress,
hope to
even
be
the
able to
life
take,
through sustainability. Huh.
absolutely, we hope to take a lot of your ideas to our viewers and our followers. And likewise, because I think, like you said, one of the most important things is to keep on talking. I mean, I love that point, because sometimes we also get fed up. You're repeating the same thing, but it is important to keep getting it reinforced in anybody that you speak to, that you interact with, at every possible forum, because unless we bring it back into mainstream, uh, it's going to be very difficult for us to sustain. Because if the environment doesn't sustain, or it's full of chemicals, it's indirectly affecting us, because that's where our fruits and vegetables are growing. If the soil is impacted, if the waterways are impacted, if you're not getting the right kind of nutrition from there, and if you're getting all this poisoning from whatever you're consuming, it's ultimately impacting us, right? Because chemicals are leaching in, whether from the plastic, from the landfills, or from just your waterways.
It's not just
So,
chemicals, it's plastic and it's loss of nutrition also. Anyway, so that's a debate for another day. So
yes,
Geeta, indeed a pleasure and would like to sign off for today.
yes. Lovely talking to you,
Thank you.
Sunita.
Thanks for having me. Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you
Likewise.
so much for being a part of Parama Talks.
Dr. Sunita, it was a real pleasure to have you join us for this very special session on Sustainability and World Environment Day. Your insights on the challenges that we face at our individual levels and at the society levels were very thought provoking. Your practical ideas, on the other hand, on how we can improve our sustainability quotient in our personal and professional lives were very useful and can be easily adopted by most of us. At the end of it all, it was very heartening to see the resonance that we shared on what sustainability really is. Sustainability for oneself, that is, sustainability for people, sustainability for the society, and sustainability at the end of it for the planet. We look forward to many more sessions with you, Dr. Sunita, so that we can continue to learn from your guidance and we can continue to evolve in our sustainability journey at Parama Naturals. Thank you once again and have a lovely day.